everyone. Hello, good evening. We're talking right now about, we will talk about serverless services. So it's kind of a new way of hosting our applications, and I will try to explain as simple as possible to all of you. Okay, so a bit of myself, semantic of the term itself, history, FAAS, and hands-on. So my name is Rafael. I'm a tech leader in JUS Brazil, a Brazilian company. We're the largest law tech in the world, and we work to extinguish the justice gap in Brazil. JUS Brazil. You can find us as JUS Brazil in every social network. So semantic. What is serverless? Talking about words itself. So it's less servers, is no servers. What it really means is really less servers. So it's less contact with the server, the physical server, as few as possible. So it aims to the developer focus himself just in delivering the best experience to the user without need to worry about if he needs a server with 16 gigabytes of RAM or 32 gigabytes of RAM, how many CPUs. So it will be all fulfilled by the cloud system, and the developer just needs to use it. So this guy is a Brazilian that works in IBM, and he says, so think about serverless as wireless, internet wireless. So, okay, you don't have to be connected, wirelessly connected, to use the wireless, but at some point will be wires. So at some point will be servers, physical servers, behind some curtains and somewhere. And the history is the history of software architecture itself. So how we used to and how we do architecturing our servers right now. So we started at, maybe 30 years ago by using in-house servers. I don't know if anyone here used to have in-house servers. Then we moved to bare metal, so an in-house server hosted in some other company, some company focused on hosting services. And then we move ahead, go to VPS and shared hostings, and then we finally came to containers. Right? Docker comes to play, and I thought when we are heading the containers, using containers, I thought, okay, this is the thing. We will stop here so we can adjust our application to everything it needs. We build up an image, a simple image, a light image, and then we can deploy it anywhere. We just need Linux, right? But yeah, people go further and bring us like anything as a servers. So serverless is really all those letters AAS. So the BAAS, FAAS, PAAS, every single word of this are serverless. It's not only one thing, it's all of this. So, but the goal has never changed. The goal is always and continues to have less configuration, to have less contact with the physical servers, to don't need to know how a machine works to have your application working, right? So it's less about server, more about power, more about being able to build an application without being limited by physical limitations. So serverless aims to cost less, to focus the scalability of your application by traffic, by basically routes, and to focus each one of those routes in a single responsibility. So it's a good thing to know. So every function that we write, every method, should have only one responsibility, should be a pure function, and they are getting those concepts and moving to the handler, the service handler itself. So the handler nowadays should only have one single responsibility. So it will just add a post, just create a to-do list, just get the list, just delete it, just complete it or uncompleted. It's focused on a single responsibility. And all those buzzwords that I've said earlier. And we will be focusing in FaaS, right? But as I said, the architecture, the software architecture in itself, the history, is also the history about serverless. So back at time where we used to write monolithic applications, so all those huge, massive Java programs, a JAR or a WAR that will need to Tomcat start with maybe 8 gigs of RAM. And we evolved, we became microservices guys. So, okay, let's split out these huge applications in smaller applications, but every application still were being developed by a full stack application. So we used to write the data models, the HTTP handlers, and also the front end. And then we were able to think more, to think better, and split this up. So together with microservices, we've started to do micro front ends to split these single page applications into a lot of single page applications, smaller applications that will be more useful and will be handler more performatic to the user. And evolving all of this, we've started to build pure functions as HTTP handlers. So, or building HTTP handler as pure functions. So we go to a path, this path receives the query, do a single thing, and then respond. Just this. It's not like doing, I don't know, maybe asking another path to do something, waiting for it, and then going to the database, and then getting the response, and going to the Elasticsearch, and searching for a lot of stuff. It's to keep things simple. So it's a concept that it's native to functions, to functions as a services, to serverless thinking about this, right? So FaaS, function as a services. A lot of cloud providers has FaaS alongside the BaaS or PaaS. In fact, the first serverless was a guy named, a service named Zinsky. It was created before the App Engine. It was, the Google App Engine was the most known serverless platform. But now, all those cloud providers were walking to this new trend that is function as a service. So Google Cloud Functions, AWS Lambda, Azure has, Oracle has, IBM has. I think all of them maybe have. So I've brought to you those three to compare them, and they have some individualities. AWS Lambda has the vast support for frameworks, so every function as a services doesn't work just like containers. So you're not able to deploy anything. So your cloud provider will say, okay, you can deploy NoJS in all of them, Python, all of them, Ruby, okay, Ruby, Google Cloud Function doesn't have, Go, all of them have, but Java and .NET is only with AWS Lambda. So each one has a defined framework, web framework for each language, and those are the runtimes they support. Okay, so Google Cloud, I think everyone here knows, AWS also as well, and now.sh, I don't think everybody here is familiar. Does anyone here have heard? Okay, 4 or 5 people. Nice. Okay, so I will focus here on showing you the code of the how to use the FAAS in now.sh, right? To compare. And okay, I think, yeah, let's. Microsoft Azure has, yes, but I will not talk about it in this presentation. Okay, so now okay, so now.sh, let me show you the okay, how can I leave here? Okay. This is the website, right? You can go to your dashboard, and you have your list of serverless applications, right? So the hello world, it's as simple as possible. You don't need to do anything. You create a file. The file will export a function, of course. And this function receives two parameters, request and response. Request and response are not the full HTTP objects, right? It's not the incoming message default. It's a framework from now.sh, customized. It's like Express, but it's not strict Express, right? But yeah, you can do shortcuts like response status, res.send, res.json as well. And this is as simple as it could be. You have also a developer environment, of course. I mean, it's not of course, Cloud Function doesn't have. Okay. What is it? Okay, it's not working. Let's see, why is this? So, okay, I've messed up. I will just remove this. Yes, okay. So now it's working. We can have it here. And the code is this simple. So we just have this request handler, simple request handler, and we can manipulate the request itself and use the response to set a status to send text or send JSON as well. And it will be in JSON format. We can work with parameters. And yeah, so it wasn't necessary to write a now.json. It's the configuration file. We will get there. But the platform understand that everything you put inside the folder API will be available at the file name as the path. So hello world.js is inside the API, so I can access by /API/hello world, right? I have here, okay, with params, we can access with params, right? And it shows the query parameters. If we want to add something else, it will be here. And we can also receive a body. Okay. API body. And the body doesn't work, of course. And yeah, and we can see the body right here. So this is the simplest way to configure the serverless on NoJS or on NoJS, and it also has a way to configure some stuffs. You can add a predefined path and allocate a destination. You can add headers here as well. So let me get an example. You can add, for example, cross-origin headers to allow requests in the front end. You can add, get some more. And you can go as further as you can. You can define methods, the allowed methods. You can define your environment variables here. This here means that you will be adding this variable through the API, through the UI of now.sh, or using its command line, now secret sed Google Analytics. This is another example. And you can do In the same project, you can also add the now Node runtime. You can add the Python runtime in the same project, but for different paths, for different destinations. And you can disable this one here, NoJS Helpers. So I've said that the framework is a custom framework from NoJS, and you can disable it by doing NoJS Helpers 0, and you will be dealing with a default HTTP handler in Node.js. So the request and response became in a HTTP incoming message default. But why would you do this? Maybe you ask. So this is a little project. It is, I think I can show you here, would be better. Okay. So for this project, I needed to disable the Node.js helpers because I was trying to use OpenAPI and writing the schema only one time only. So I was writing the schema for my OpenAPI design and use this schema to my modeling and to my request validation. And for doing this, using now this .sh, I had to disable to use this here. So API doc. This here is an utilitarian method to connect OpenAPI with request validation. OpenAPI schemas with request validators. It's not a big deal right now, but I had to use it with a sort of a middleware with the serverless function. So my serverless was necessary to me to validate my request, and it wasn't okay to do this validation over and over in every path I was developing. So I created a middleware and attached this middleware to my serverless function. So I was able to do like a pre-handler before my handler. And this is the way I was creating a function that receiving a function and returns a handler, an HTTP handler. And here I was using this request and response as a default income message. So by doing this, I was able to validate my request and pass the validated data to my serverless handler. That was right here. And yes. So comparing to the Google Cloud will be no problem and not different. Google Cloud uses Express.js as the strict Express.js framework, version 4.16. And you can do whatever you want to the request and response that is documented by Express.js. So it's as simple as the now.sh and you can work only with command line and writing these simple handlers. To do the same with AWS Lambda, I wasn't able to do this by command line, the command line interface of AWS, but it is also possible. But the framework it uses is the AWS SDK. So you receive an event that is the body, the request body, and you can work with this event and the context of the request itself. So it's something like this. Also, as simple as possible. So, why would you move from your already set container architecture using Kubernetes or anything else you want to serverless functions? For now, I don't think you want to change your whole infrastructure to do this. But every time I need to write some webhook or some HTTP to just add a message to my queue, serverless, this FAAS, serverless service, is my way to go. So I write a simple HTTP code that will receive a request query, a request body, and will send it to my SQS or my RabbitMQ, or maybe we'll just save something in the database. So I don't know, when I was receiving a credit card from my client, I send the request to my payment provider, and the payment provider will ping back my webhook telling that the transaction was good or not. And my webhook will only need to update a database entry. So I think for now, the serverless world, it's contained in these usages, these use cases. So simple use cases like webhooks, like enqueuing and receiving messages, and these really simple handlers. And yeah, questions?
So you have a testing strategy if you have, like, as you say, the credit card and webhook. How do you ensure testing? How do you make your testing strategy in Python?
My testing strategy?
Yeah.
So it's very simple. Since you have a method built, you can add a test framework of, I don't know, maybe Jest or Mocha if you're running JavaScript, and you can import your function and do a mock with the request and response. Or you can build up a fake server and do an HTTP really to localhost and expect the correct response. This is a good question. It's not, with now, at least, you can run a local server, right? So you cannot import now and telling, okay, now use these files to create paths. But you can use like a spawn method to create another node process, and this node process will be a null. Only null. It will be reading your null JSON and starting up your application. So your test can go and send HTTP to localhost, and then in your tear down strategy, you can shut down your service.
Can you use raw express on now?
Raw express on null? No.
Do they have middleware support? Like now? Because like
Yeah, none of them I think has really middleware support like the next parameter as the third parameter. I think Google Cloud Functions, at least it says it says is express handler, but I don't saw anywhere a next parameter being used. So I think it is stricter to the request and response. So you cannot, you cannot in a easy and clear way do multiple handlers to the same request. But as I was talking, if he, in this, file here, you can like in Kiwi handlers, right? Using or callbacks or promises. It's not important here, but you can do a request and response and return it before sending the callback. It's not, you can do this, and so your middleware will stop the execution in the steps. But yeah, now is not Express. It is Express friendly, but it's not Express. But Google Cloud Function is. The framework running there is Express. Maybe without the next, but it is Express.
Do these platforms support versioning of the functions?
Versioning? Yeah, would be good, but no. They have versions of the deploys. You can roll back and go forward with your deploys. Now.sh in the free, I don't know, without paying anything, you have, I think, 5 histories, deploy histories. But
yeah, but
as long
about that use case about being able to roll back to a previous version if there were any problems.
yeah, you can do this. Like a strategy to in the continuous delivery, only go for the next version if it is all good. But it's not, I think, in the Kubernetes cluster, you can do versioning more robust. So only apply these changes if in one single pod this works as good as possible, so you can broadcast it to all the pods. But in the at least in the free version, you cannot do like those strategies. Anyone else? Nope. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.